Well, good morning. It's nice to see you here today and a joy to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Harford County. And I'm Kimberly Roberts, and my pronouns are she and her. Leading the service or helping me today will be Ami Silberman, who's going to be lighting our menorah in just a little bit. Whatever the faiths you have known, if any, you are welcome here. Whatever your race or where you were born, whatever your gender, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, we are a religious tradition that values diversity and embraces the wisdom of all faiths. We use science, reason, and the gifts of the Spirit to explore life's mystery and meaning. We gather in community to restore the balance of our spirits, to celebrate the joys of life, and to find the strength to meet our sorrows, and in the earliest meaning of the word worship, to consider ideas that are worthy of our time and our attention. In this tradition, we know that people need not think alike to love alike. Now may the sound of the bell and the music of the Maccabees help to center us as we enter into this time of worship.
Cut. All right, that's a wrap.
All right, guys, gotta go.
Bye.
See ya.
All right, see you later, Jeff.
Yeah, I'll see you practice.
I see a light reflection, refraction isn't nothing more than a chemical reaction. It flickers and grows, nobody knows how much we feel, how quickly it goes. Turn off the dark and vanquish the night. Show the whole world for 8 days of twilight. Then and now, they fought and we fight. Fight for the right to live by our own light. Let me see the light. Give me something to live by. Let me see the light. I need something to live by. Help me see myself in my reflection. Let me shed the light in each direction. I wanna see the light. A million times the speed of sound, fast enough to go around. The world that we live in, such cold and strife. One little light to warm another life. The darkest night with the brightest light. 'Cause it's time for you to shine. A little dedication, small illumination. Just one person to change a whole nation. Let me see the light. Give me something to live by. Let me see the light. I need something to live by. Let me see myself in my reflection. Whoa, let me shed the light in each direction. I wanna see the light. Is this spark that we sing of anything? Hiding somewhere in between everything. Let the colors burn in a brilliant burn. Let the shooting star fall into the earth. Whoa. Help me see myself in my reflection. Shine tonight. Let me shed the light in each direction. Shining bright. Shine. Let me see myself in my reflection. Shine. Let me shed the light in each direction. I wanna see the light.
Action.
Our opening words are by Tanya Marquez. Our lives intersect and intertwine. It is a wonder and mystery that our paths have crossed at all, that in the immensity of time, in the vastness of space, we coincide here in this room. I'm in awe of the ways in which our lives intersect and intertwine, at the beauty we create when we're together. May our coming together make us more compassionate, more just, more caring, and more loving. May our hearts and minds be open to this offering, and I'm so glad that you are here. Let us worship, let us marvel at the miracle of being here right now and the mystery that has brought us together. So if you would, you can stand or sit as you're comfortable and join me in singing opening hymn 221, Light One Candle. The words will be on the screen. We light this chalice as a symbol of our free faith. We light this chalice to remember the miracle of the oil that burned for 8 days. We light this chalice to mark the nights of midwinter, and we light this chalice as we wait for the sun to return. Each Sunday, We invite those gathered here to support the mission of the congregation by offering a financial contribution. With love at the center, members here care for one another and extend that care into the wider community through actions for love and justice, which, no matter how small, work towards the transformation of our world. This fellowship intentionally welcomes the pluralism of theological beliefs as members seek to learn and grow, acknowledging our interdependence as we help each other towards deeper understanding. Financial contributions allow this congregation to reach out to all who are seeking a life-affirming message of love and hope. And if you're online, because people online can hear us now, which is great, click the link in Zoom chat to contribute. And if you're on site, you can place a donation in the basket or use your device and find the donate link on the uufhc.net. On uufhc.net. The fellowship app is still up and running for, I think, a couple more months, so you could use that too. Whatever method of giving you choose, your generosity helps to grow a healthier, more vibrant, and joyful UU community, and in keeping with our religious tradition, to draw the circle of love and justice a little bit wider.
Candles shine for the Maccabees. Candles shine for the Maccabees. Down from the mountains with liberty songs, they came like the flame of the Lord. Dance the hora like the menorah. This is a time of joy. The road to freedom we take today with the Maccabees leading the way. Candles shine for the Maccabees. Candles shine for the Maccabees. The tyrant was routed with all of his men, and the temple made holy again. Dance the hora like the menorah. This is a time of joy. The road to freedom we take today with the Maccabees leading the way. Candles shine for the Maccabees. Candles shine for the Maccabees. Hanukkah's children never forget the glory that shines for us yet. Dance the hora like the menorah. This is a time of joy. The road to freedom we take today with the Maccabees leading the way. Dance the hora like the menorah. This is a time of joy. The road to freedom we take today with the Maccabees leading the way. The road to freedom we take today with the Maccabees leading the way. 9 is for God, let that shine. 3 for the new built altar place. 7 for the sons of Hannukah. 6 for the kings and the tricks they tried. 5 for the brothers Maccabee. 4 for the Hebrew children. 3 for the books that desert taught. 2 for the father and mother love. 1 for Moses on the mount. 8 in the nights of Hanukkah. Happy joyous Hanukkah. 8 in the days and 8 in the nights. Happy joyous Hanukkah. Hi, I'm Casey.
And I'm Maria.
And thank you for watching
Candle Shine. Oh, if you liked it, please like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends.
Oscar and the 8 Blessings by Richard and Tanya Simon.
It is time for all ages, so you can go ahead and run that video that I saw pop up.
Oscar and the 8 Blessings by Richard and Tanya Simon. Oscar arrived in New York on the 7th day of Hanukkah. It was also Christmas Eve. He knew his Aunt Esther would be lighting the menorah at sunset. To reach her before the sun went down, Oscar would have to walk over 100 blocks on the avenue called Broadway. The city was terribly big. Oscar was terribly small. and Broadway stretched before him like a river. Oscar was already tired, hungry, and cold. His father's last words felt very far to him. After a few blocks, he looked up to see a woman feeding pigeons. She offered him a piece of a stale roll so he could feed them too. Oscar wanted to feed the birds, but he was too hungry not to swallow the morsel himself. The woman reached inside her coat and gave him a small loaf of bread. It was warm and fresh. It gave him the strength to keep walking. He saw a newsstand full of comics. One showed a strong man on a cape doing amazing things. He stopped bullets. He stopped trains. The newsstand man held out his hand. Oscar didn't have any money, so he gave back the comic book. The man called to him. "Keep it, kid. Merry Christmas." Oscar clutched his gift, his Superman, and he heard his father's words. "You have to look for blessings." Oscar kept walking. He stopped when he heard music coming from a little alley where a big man was humming a jazzy tune. The man whistled to Oscar. Oscar whistled back. They made a tune as fast and light as the snowflakes falling around them. It was Oscar's first conversation in America. At the corner of a park, boys were having a snowball fight. One boy slipped. Oscar leapt and caught him, just as the Superman would have done. The boy was laughing, and that made Oscar laugh. But when he looked at Oscar's cold hands, he stopped laughing. He took off his mittens. Oscar put them on and felt the boy's warmth. He had something to give to the boy, too. A few blocks later, a tall lady in a big coat walked out of a building. A policeman shouted, "Stand aside!" Oscar stopped short. "Oh, Thomas, he's just a child," the lady said to the policeman. "Let him pass." She winked at Oscar. The policeman moved out of Oscar's path. "Yes, Mrs. Roosevelt." Mrs. Roosevelt. The sun was setting and Oscar began to run. He had to get to Aunt Esther's before she lit the shamash. Running, he stumbled and fell. A hand reached down and pulled him up. "Back on your feet, son." His father was right. People can be good. He turned the corner and ran down the street, looking for her house. He ran past a woman humming a niggaloo. Suddenly, he heard a name. Benjamin? It wasn't his name. It was his father's, and it washed over him. She had a dimpled smile just like his. "That's Papa," he said. "I'm Oscar," whispered Aunt Esther. The end.
Ami? Can I give you this too?
Okay, thank you. So we're going to light the menorah. Can people hear me? Yeah. Good.
People on Zoom might not be able to, so let me give you this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're going to go through the blessings so you can hear them, and then we'll go through them for real and light it. When we go through it for real, after each blessing, we can also read the translation. A couple things about the menorah. This is the shamash, which means servant. It's the candle that lights the other candles. As Hanukkah proceeds, you fill in the candles from right to left, but you light them left to right. In our family, traditionally, we lit them between the first and second blessings. About the blessings, if any of you vaguely remember Hebrew from Hebrew school, the name for God in the transliteration is Adonai, which is how one pronounces the two most sacred names of God, even though they're not spelled that way at all. Those are the ones that Christians know as Yahweh and Jehovah. Those are never pronounced. Well, one of them is pronounced by the high priest at the High Holy Days. But and then finally, there's a term here, mitzvot, which is the plural of mitzvah. A mitzvah is a commandment by God, and it also is a good deed, because a lot of the mitzvot are good deeds. There's a mitzvah to practice charity, to feed the stranger, to clothe the homeless, and so forth. And some of them don't eat pork, so they're a mixed bag. So we will go through the two blessings. The first one, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner shel Hannukah. And the second one, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu v'imotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh.
Nico.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner shel Hannukah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu v'imotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who performed wondrous deeds for our ancestors in days of old at this season.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. In your order of service, we're going to do a responsive reading, and I will read the unitalicized, and you all will read the italicized. We lit the Hanukkah candles in wonder, joy, and gratitude, each candle a miracle. We rededicate ourselves to the miracle of light in a season of darkness. To the miracle of hope in a time of despair. We redirect ourselves to the miracle of wholeness in a time of fracture. To the miracle of resistance in a time of oppression. And in a time of hatred, we rededicate ourselves to the miracle of love. Now it's the time in our Sunday service to briefly share a joy, a sorrow, or a concern, something that you're holding deeply within your heart this morning. If you're on site, you can come to the front and speak into the microphone while I light a candle. They'll be right in front of the menorah. And if you are on Zoom, put it in the chat, the message you'd like to share, and we will read it and light a candle for you. And a few gentle reminders. This is not a time for announcements or politics. Please say your first name, and please share from your heart and your own experience, and be mindful not to share anyone else's experience unless they gave you their permission to do so. Would anybody like to share this morning?
Hello, everyone. I'm Wolf, and this is a
First reading today is from Rabbi Micah Greenstein. I just received the funniest Hanukkah card in the mail. The cover reads, "It's Hanukkah, time for people everywhere to repeat those familiar words of the season." And the inside continues with a series of humorous questions about the spelling of this Jewish holiday. And maybe you've had similar questions. How many N's? How many K's? Is there a C or isn't there a C? And why do some people make that strange noise in their throat at the beginning of the word. Moving from the original Hebrew, there are actually 8 different ways to spell the name of this week's Jewish holiday in English, all of them correct. And no matter how you letter it, Hanukkah contains a beautiful and a powerful message. A little light drives away much darkness, the early rabbis said. Every good act and healing gesture can spark a light of hope in a dark world. The extraordinary London Reform rabbi and community leader Rabbi Hugo Grin, who survived Auschwitz, teaches a related and imperishable lesson from his own childhood. When the then 12-year-old Hugo and his father were among the starving Jews in the death camps, a fellow Jewish prisoner had announced that Hanukkah would begin at sunset, and Hugo thought his dad was crazy when he told his son to save the one butter pat they were given and to use it as oil to light the Hanukkah lights. "But they're starving us to death, Dad," Hugo replied. "My dear son," his father said, "you and I have learned in this place called Auschwitz that a person can live for 3 days without food, but I want you to always remember that a person cannot live for 3 minutes without hope. These Hanukkah lights, Hugo, are lights of hope." Hugo and his father miraculously survived the Holocaust. His other family members did not. But his point holds and was echoed by the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. over 50 years ago. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And here we are, almost 57 years after King left us, standing and then fallen on a balcony in downtown Memphis when he was only 39 years old. Here we are on this day of Hanukkah, seeking ways to fulfill what Rabbi Grin's father was teaching him during Hanukkah at Auschwitz, that to be a Jew, to be a child of God, is to increase the light of decency, honesty, and goodness. And it's a strange fact of history that without Hanukkah, there would be no Christmas. Since Hanukkah commemorates the survival of Judaism in 165 BCE against all odds, it's all chronicled in the book of Maccabees. A Greek-Assyrian tyrant who literally thought he was God, Antiochus Epiphanes, which means God's manifest, forbade Jews from practicing their faith. He ransacked the temple and paraded Jewish women and their children through the streets of Israel before killing them. He left the Jews of that time, led by Judah Maccabee, no choice but to fight for their religious freedom. And had the Maccabees not prevailed, Judaism would have died out over a century before Jesus the Jew was born. Hence the historical linkage between Hanukkah and Christmas. The miracle of Hanukkah, however, is based on the legend of what the Maccabees found after restoring the pillaged temple in Jerusalem. The legend is there was only enough oil in the temple to last 1 day, but it stayed aglow for 8. Almost every synagogue ark today is an eternal light, a witness of God's light to the world, God's presence in every human being, and the eternal light of the Jewish people. As a remembrance of that miracle, we increase the light each night of Hanukkah in a special candelabrum with 8 spaces, plus a spot for a helper candle, the shamash, which the other candles are lit, as Ami and Karen showed us. The message of the helper candle for us is that it never loses its own light when it gives. It only increases the light. We need a candle to light the candles. The shamez reflects the reality that we need each other to bring light, and that we don't diminish our own light when we help others to grow and glow. Interestingly, Hanukkah did not make the final cut out of the Hebrew Bible when the canon was decided in the 1st century. The likely reason is this: Hanukkah is the first recorded struggle for religious freedom, with the military victory of the smaller Maccabees miraculously defeating the Greek-Syrian army. But it wasn't long before the crushing Romans overtook Jerusalem and brutalized, crucified, and massacred the Jewish descendants of the Maccabees. The biblical reading, therefore, chosen by the early rabbis for Hanukkah, focuses on the power of the human spirit, not the spirit of military power. Not by might, nor by power, the angel of God says in Zechariah 4:6, but by my Spirit, not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit. The Hanukkah story is thus simply not about an outer struggle for freedom and independence. It's also about finding the inner strength and light, no matter what the darkness. Just as that small bit of oil discovered in the Jerusalem temple seemed far too little, yet proved to be more than enough. Perhaps it's possible to find that even in our own darkness, there is light enough. Hanukkah teaches us that even when it's darkest, it's always possible to find light.
Kindle candles one by one, night by night the light grows, lights of freedom, miracle of faith, shining out for all to see. We give thanks for the miracles, ancestors who fought for faith. They were brave beyond all hope, strong, courageous Maccabees. Blessed is the Holy One who commands these lights ablaze, who has brought us to this time. We rejoice with gratitude. Candles on the windowsill, candles calling all to see. Love and justice, healing fear, chasing shadows from our lives. Kindle candles one by one, night by night the light grows, lights of freedom, miracle of faith, shining out for all to see, shining out for all to see.
Our second reading is by the Reverend Kimberly Debus. December isn't frenetic enough, so some people become religious professionals. And because December for religious professionals and the lay folk who participate in their choirs and pageants and extra services is frenetic, they don't really have the time for your questions about whether or not the ancients literally thought that the sun would disappear forever, or whether Jesus was literally the Son of God and was born in a manger, and 3 wise guys found him following a star, or the oil literally lasted 8 days when it shouldn't have lasted 1. We know that you have doubts about these seemingly too good to be true stories. We do too. And still, we tell the stories and put our faith in them and act out the events and celebrate them, because that's the power of stories like these. The too good to be trueness of them is the point, and it's good. Who remembers that George Washington chopped down a cherry tree and when asked about it said, "I cannot tell a lie"? When we were little, we thought that was true until we learned that it was an allegory that affirms his integrity. We don't care that it's true facts because it represented something we know to be true about the man who became the first U.S. president. We tell these mythic narratives all the time, even about people living today, which is why when we find out they're actually just human and make human mistakes, it crushes our spirit. And we do this because, as we've said before, our brains are wired for story. We tell stories because we are formed by stories. It's an endless loop. It's how we learn. And what's more, the stories don't stay static. They change over time to meet the moment. There are too many versions of Aesop's original fables to count across the world in many forms. And remember that these began as oral stories told to people who tell them to someone else, and somewhere along the line they get written down and rewritten and recast in a different setting and with variations. And somewhere in that is a kernel of truth that began thousands of years ago, an affirmation of something crucial to know about humans. The story is true, even if it's light on facts. The same is true of the stories from our sacred texts. They were passed down in the oral tradition, told to one another to both remember things that happened, but also to make them memorable. Characters become greater heroes or villains to emphasize meaning. Events get exaggerated. Coincidences are explained in relationship to the core story, and other stories are woven in or used to affirm a story. And they're told to various audiences who tell them and reshape them for other audiences. And somewhere along the line, someone thinks to write them down, which sets off thousands of years of more retellings and a considerable amount of arguing and debating about what is fact and what is true, which is missing the point. When it comes to our sacred stories, we should not be asking, is it factual? We should be asking, is it helpful? As theologian Charles Halton talks about in his book, A Human-Shaped God, we should be asking, do these stories help us become better, more charitable, more compassionate people? And do these stories lead us to generosity and hope? We don't need to interrogate the facts, especially when we're simply trying to tell truth-filled, inspiring stories. When we get caught up in the details, we miss what actually matters about our telling of the longest night, the baby being born, and the oil in the lamp. Because what matters is that there is always a glimmer of hope. There's always a light. And those things exist because we exist together to be a light for one another. Storytellers don't tell stories in empty rooms. They tell stories with others, and those stories offer what others need to see hope and light and love. And so in the frenzy of our Decembers, we can stop, be still, give thanks, and know that together, in our stories and in our celebrations, we will find hope. And that's the real truth. Our benediction is also a reading by Reverend Margaret Beckman. What do Hanukkah and the light of the candles of the menorah offer us in this season? Here are a few suggestions, and I invite you to think of other ways this holiday of light contributes to our lives. The menorah is placed in the window of the home. This is so that the light shines out into the world. The light of Hanukkah is to be shared and to send light out into darkness. Each night, an additional candle is lit, and so the light continues to grow and become stronger throughout the holiday period. And as the days grow shorter and the nights longer, the light of the menorah is a welcome beacon of the love of family and friends and the kindness of strangers who shine their light out of their homes to guide others who wander in the darkness. We are reminded that what seems impossible at first might be possible when we begin in faith and see what happens. If we don't try or never take the first step, we will never achieve the end we desire. The menorah in the window for all to see is also a reminder that we long to be able to practice our faith in ways that suit our family and tradition as handed down or developed through the years. Freedom of religious practice is an important value. The flame of one candle is not diminished when it lights a second or a third or even the eighth. The flame of the helper candle in each of the 8 candles burns brightly without losing anything when the next candle is lit. Our light shines brightly when we share our light with another. Our light is not dimmed or extinguished. It continues to burn just as brightly as it did before we rekindled another's light with a spark from our own. The candles we all light in December provide light and warmth during a season of cold and dark, and we can be mindful of the great gift of a light shared with us in times of darkness. So let your light shine. The inner light that each of us carries is for our own benefit for sure, but it's also to be a gift to the world. We ought to place our inner light in the window of our being for all who pass by to see. And may they see that we are filled with light. May they see that we are freely sharing our light with anyone who needs it. And may we know that there's oil enough to keep the lamp of eternal light burning brightly forever within each of us and for the world. So go and share your light and light up the world. So as we extinguish the chalice, the words for this are together. We have enjoyed the warmth and beauty of stories of this flame and of this special community. And as our chalice flame is extinguished this morning, we can still remember that its glow is carried within us. We can use our inner lights and this flame to kindle new sparks throughout our lives and in the world. May the spirit of peace and togetherness bless your lives. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain seated for the postlude. Feel free to sing along with this. Have a couple announcements today. The first one is about the coat collection. If you forgot your donation today, don't despair. Hazel is here, and she said to see her after the service, and we'll figure out how to get it. Hazel, where are you? If you could raise your hand. There she is in the back row. And go ahead, come on up. Trisha's has an announcement, and then I have one from Mark.
A quick announcement, if you brought cookies in a container, we saved the containers and they're out by the front door, so please take the container home with you. And thank you again for all the cookies for the Holiday Bazaar.
Mark?
Okay, just a quick announcement. During our last board meeting, we decided that we were not going to renew our Subsplash account for next year. So we'll continue to have the website that's up and running just as it normally is. And I think we've announced to folks that have information on there to go ahead and take it down and make sure that we collect any information that we need off of that Subsplash site. So going forward, we'll look at some other options, but I think as a board all decided that the current tool is not probably the best fit for our congregation. And if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to see me afterwards. Thank you.
Yes, Shana.
Sorry, I didn't try to write.
Go ahead.
So I just wanted to inform everybody that if you go to the website and click on the donate button or the whatever it's called, sorry. It's now going to PayPal instead of the other site that was on Subsplash, so it's going to look different. If you can, there's a space in there where you can put in what you're giving for. Populate that if it's going to be something like towards a pledge or just a normal contribution, if you can for now. I'm eventually going to try and get it to spread out to have it where you can select it, but right now it's just a one category where you just put in your notes. So it's going to look a little different. It's still the giving, just, giving button, that's it. And just want to make sure you use that memo area text to put in if it's anything special, like going towards social justice or community outreach or special gift, whatever it is.
Well, thank you, everybody. It is now time for coffee and fellowship, and if you're a visitor today, please hang around. We'd love to get to know you. Thanks.